6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. I'd like to call the regular select board meeting open on today, Monday, October 16th, and it is 6 p.m. Welcome everyone here and the audience and BCTV. And does anyone here have any additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll need a motion to approve the agenda as it reads.
I make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it passes. We are open. All right. Our first order of business is the road foreman and road commissioners report.
Minutes.
No,
from the
minutes.
meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where is the
The minutes.
minutes? I don't even see them here.
Yeah,
Right after we do.
Oh, yes, I do see them. October 2nd. Have we had a chance to look at them?
Don't even have it.
Pardon?
Don't even
we
have
didn't
it.
get them here.
Why didn't we get them?
Are you asking?
They were in the email distribution. Let me see if they're over here.
I
Oh,
read it
yeah.
online, but I figured
I
I'd
read
get
it
a
online
print.
too.
No, mine went.
I
Okay.
didn't see anything there.
No, I just got my agenda in the post office.
Well, we may have to put this aside.
I was not at the meeting, so I can give out my copy since I can't vote on it anyway.
Right,
I'm gonna get that to Chris.
I know. Can we just put this on next time and then get copies for everyone?
Let's vote on it. Let's do it next meeting.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do it next
okay,
meeting.
good.
Is everybody in agreement to that?
Yeah.
I want a motion to table till time certain.
Yeah. We'll vote on when that is, because I don't have them either.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think this was yours. All right.
So
Now
you'll need a motion for the time certain. That will be 30th.
Well, the
So that's the
30th,
business.
the 30th is a business meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We can make it then. Okay, we do now have a road foreman's and
Do you have a motion and a second on that?
we have to have a motion
Sorry.
and second?
Yeah.
Oh, darn, I hate, these motions are just
I
too
know.
much. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the October 2nd, 2017 regular meeting minutes?
No, to
On-
table the motion,
To table the
minutes
motion, table the minutes.
to the time certain of October 30th.
Thank you very much.
You're
Did
welcome.
everyone hear that?
Yes.
Second it.
All right, over the second. All those
I'll
in favor
second.
say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Tabled. All right. Moving slowly along, we are now going to the road foreman, road commissioner's report. Jay?
One thing that's come up since the last meeting is we have a little problem on Baker Brook Road with a person working on the edge of the road within the town right away. And they raised the edge of the road up 2.5 feet probably.
Yeah, right straight out into, right, it's just a shelf right straight up.
So the select board's gonna need to take that up, figure out how to address that.
It needs to be removed, but it needs to be. There's been an object put in the way within 2 feet of the road, a heavy steel object.
So we have the road commissioner saying it needs to be removed. Do we
Set
have?
back to the edge of the right of way. It can be there, but it's gotta be back.
What is the object?
A bowl gear from a sawmill,
A
or
sawmill?
from a water mill. It's
Oh.
just a big pulley, huge, huge.
So the remedy is it needs to be just pulled back. Okay.
I think you'll have to send a letter or somehow address it.
Yep.
All right.
We cleaned the sand out from inside the covered bridge, and we had hoped to do a little more when we did some work on the bridge, but the price came back a little higher than we thought, so we'll get to that in a minute. We've started fixing some shoulders along the pavement where the rains this spring have kind of eroded the edges. We replaced culverts on Adams Hill Road and Newfane Hill Road. Christopher Williams and Mike Fitzpatrick and myself met on Stratton Hill, came up with a plan to change some drainage below that hill. We've gone up there and done some work, and we'll see how it works. We'll kind of keep an eye on it for a bit. I met with Richard Thal on South Wardsboro Road, and he's going to be bringing a proposal for some work on the side of the road near his property, probably in November. On last Thursday, we removed 7 hazardous trees on Baker Brook Road and 1 on Dover Road. That worked out real well. We had a tree guy help us, and we took care of all
Perfect.
the brush. This past Friday, met with Emily from Wyndham Regional, and we had gotten a stormwater grant to start doing some ditching work and so forth. We don't have to have it completed until next June, so it won't get done this fall, I'm sure. But we rode around and looked at the roads, and Sunset Lake was the one that she thought was the best candidate for doing some of the work. And we're only going to be able to do a portion of it. There's nowhere near enough money to do it all.
So that will be put on the budget from,
The
Oh, it's
town's
in the
portion was, I think 4,200. The rest was part of the grant. I think it was a total of 23,000. That's what we got to spend. So I received a price for the cover bridge repairs from Daniels Construction, and I have attached it to the back. It came in significantly higher than I anticipated. They came in at $10,685, and if we want it paved when they're through, $2,340 more. So I think for the time being, we'll try to get another price. Because I'm sure we don't have that much money sitting aside for bridge stuff, so.
and as soon as you get other prices, we can put it on the agenda for
Yeah.
next time.
Yeah. I'll skip over the signs because that's on a separate agenda thing. Chris Williams, Mike Fitzpatrick, Todd Lawley, and I met with Matt Belden from Daniels Construction on the River Road Bridge. And we discussed the change in grade that they have proposed, and they've redone the way the beams are gonna sit, so we won't have, I think it was it gonna be 6 or 8 inches difference? Was that what it ended up? Yeah, so they've reduced it quite a bit, so it should be fine.
Perfect.
And the beams were in their yard being worked on, so things are going along pretty much on schedule. The Wiswall Hill erosion that we talked about the last time, just past Mary Van Eiderstein's driveway. Mike Fitzpatrick has a plan to fix it. He guessed between $2,500 and $3,000 he could fix that problem. And at this late date, if we could get somebody to just go in and fix it, I would think that would make sense, because I don't want it to go through the winter like that.
Yeah, so I know it's on.
The radio bid from last time that came in higher than the budget that we had, I got them to reduce it by $1,000, approximately $1,000. I think it was $979 or something. So the radios are all ordered. The new frequencies have been applied for, and then I met with the installers late this afternoon to go over the building and stuff, where they've got to run the new antenna wire and stuff. So everything should be going along well on that.
Jay, is it gonna require a new repeater?
Will come up this year in the budget.
Okay.
Because we've never had a repeater, and that's why we can't talk across town.
Yep.
So we're gonna get a price on that for this next year.
Did they give you an estimated date when they?
It's all depends on the FCC.
Oh.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're quick, sometimes they're not quick.
Right.
So, Columbus Day, we ended up with a couple of trees blocking roads that we had to deal with, and then most of the next day was actually spent clearing stuff from the sides of the road. I didn't think it got that windy, but
It did.
We had a bunch of stuff down, so. Lafayette is planning on finishing the band rail for the two bridges on South Wardsboro Road, October 23rd, 4th, and 5th. And I finally got a price for the white lines on the pavement, and I've attached that. I'm questioning whether it's too late to do at this point.
Yeah.
They sent a price for painting 2 no parking spots. So I sent it back and said that's not what we want, and they sent the right bid finally today. So,
Well, we could maybe stretch out those
Yeah,
two
yeah.
parking lots for 24 miles. Now,
Um,
you're thinking that it may be too late in the year to do this?
I wonder if we shouldn't wait till spring to do it.
Yeah.
Williamsville Road, Depot Hill. That road's wet now, and it'll be wet until spring. It never dries up this time of year. There's moisture on it all the time, so paint won't adhere to it.
Makes sense to me. If,
Kind of cold too. Getting cold.
And that's all I've got.
That was excellent. Thank you so much. Do we have any discussion or?
looking for a motion?
Yeah, do we make a motion to accept it? Yeah, okay. Who would like to make a motion to accept the?
I'll make the
I'll make
motion
a
to
motion to
accept
accept
it.
it.
Okay, both of you have, and a second?
Second.
Okay, and, any further questions or
Well,
discussion?
I think we still have some work to do on the letter for Baker Brook Road. Do we know, do we have information about who that's
Yep.
going to?
Yep. And I think Shannon can help you with the requirements for the
Yep.
town right away and so
Okay.
forth.
Do we know how much it has to be pulled back, so we can give them that in the letter?
Do you know what the right of way is right there?
The right of way for town roads is 3 rods. 3 rods is 49.5 feet. We usually consider it to be 50 feet.
That's from
Total.
center?
So from the center of the existing travel portion of the road, 25 feet.
Thank you very much.
Embedded in.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much, Jay.
Let the record show that Mike Fitzpatrick joined the meeting at 6:07.
Okay,
Yay!
yay, Mike. All right. We also have
Hustled right
winter,
along. They hustled right along.
You did a good job. You made it.
now that you have to go all the way around, it's,
No, I was in Arlington.
oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
well, I'm
25.
glad you made it. Winter sand bins. We have, 2 bids. We're going to open them, and Mike's going to have to leave the table, or the room, one of the two, or both. All right, the first bid. Did you want to read these?
I want to know what the figure is.
I
that's
think
all.
you should read them.
I know,
Oh.
I know what a bid is.
I know what you know what a bid is, but I was thinking it seems so much more appropriate coming from you, but I will read it. All right. Okay, the first bid for sand, October 2nd, 2017. Dear Selectmen, okay. Propose following materials. Winter sand delivered to town stock at $11 per yard. And this is by Fitzpatrick Excavating and Trucking. Okay, that's fine. Okay, this is Zalunzini Excavating Corporation. Dated 10/16/17. Okay. All right, winter sand delivered to Williamsville Town Garage, $11.92 per cubic yard. 1 week to deliver the first 1,500 cubic yards of sand. Okay, well,
And what was it, can I see the name of the company?
yeah.
It's losing.
Okay.
All right, any discussion? Do we have someone that will, it looks like Fitzpatrick came in at 11 a yard. He's the lowest bid.
We just need to know when it will be delivered, that's all.
We need to know when it will be delivered.
Within a certain, it should be within a week of the road foreman's phone call. Or however. I believe that's the way it's been done before. Don't
So,
quote me on that.
Are we not able to award this at this time?
Yeah, would.
We are.
Yeah.
Still, okay, want to make a motion?
I make a motion to, hire Fitzpatrick's to, do the winter sand for the town of Newfane.
Maybe we have a second?
A second.
All right. Any further discussion, other than, it needs to be, make that note, delivery. All those in favor?
Aye,
Aye. All right. We have that winter sand,
so it carries 401.
yes.
Soon we'll let Mike know he can rejoin the meeting. Oh, there he is.
Oh,
Yeah, they go too
nice
fast.
to see you, Mike. All right.
Yeah, I'll give you the next one.
Yeah.
Speed feedback signs. We, for the last couple of years, we've been looking into the accident rate of people in cars where there has been an injury over the last couple of years, on which roads needed more viewing. And we finally, last year, we've been talking about this for a couple of years, and last year we did budget. We agreed to budget for a speed feedback sign. And I think our road foreman has some information about that.
Yes. This is the same one the town of Dover uses, and they have 3 of them, I believe. It's from a company in Uxbridge, Mass. And the unit itself is $3,300. And apparently you order extra brackets and install them where you want it, and then you just move the sign itself as needed. It's battery powered, it lasts 2 weeks without a charge. It seems like a very nice unit.
No, I think this was the one that actually, as you're approaching the sign, it actually feeds you back your speed.
Yes.
Yeah, and, so that should hopefully be helpful.
Yep. So Shannon had talked with them. She said she thought this was a good one. They're local. They, especially since Dover's had good luck with them, and they also offered to help us set it up the first time. There's a little programming that goes on, and they said they would give us a hand with it. So.
I saw one today that not only did it feed back, and if you're above the speed limit, it says slow down,
Yeah.
and then when you slow down, it says thank you.
Oh, really?
Well,
Yeah,
that's-
yeah.
So you
I
were
thought that was really
speeding?
neat.
Oh.
I was up to a point. I was testing the sign.
I see. And we did budget for this, and how much did they?
The total with some extra brackets, looks like she's got 4 additional brackets. It's $500 and $3,300 for the sign, so it'd be $3,800.
Yeah, well, that's in our budget. All right, so, we have a motion. Any further discussion about this particular sign?
Can the public ask a question?
Yes.
I was just wondering if you looked into the solar ones?
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
I believe it was somebody we talked to didn't recommend them. They were not reliable either in the winter or something. There was a reason.
And it's where you place them. And it's pretty wooded on Grimes Hill Road, and
Yeah, they have one in Putney that I drive by every day, and it's solar powered and it works very well. But it is in a sunny spot.
Does it say thank you?
It doesn't say thank you, but that's okay.
Anybody else? I see a hand there.
Hi, will this be rotating among the different villages?
Yes, we have several roads that are more dangerous or have had more accidents upon them than others, and those will definitely be seeing that quite a bit. But yeah,
We haven't had a lot of accidents on Dover Road in Williamsville because it's a straightaway, sort of like a speedway, so I hope it'll spend some good time there.
Dover Road is one of those roads.
Super
There
duper.
actually were 4 roads that were on the top of the list.
Great.
And Dover Road was one.
In the village? In
I'm-
Williamsville Village?
Yeah, in
Yes,
Williamsville
okay.
Village, of course.
Okay.
And Grimes Hill was another, and
I think
South Wardsboro, and actually in the last year, River Road was
Well, we've slowed that down.
quite a bit actually with the bridge.
Thank goodness for that speed bump.
Yeah. So, okay.
Does that come with a charger?
Yes, it does. So do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Okay. You have a
I
motion?
second.
All right, we have a motion to award that bid to receive our
I don't think
first.
you actually have a bid, you have an update.
Actually, it's an update.
It's an update.
Well, I think we're.
I think the price, it's within
It's
the budget.
in the
and I
budget.
believe it's below
It
the
is
minimum,
below.
so you can accept that, I believe.
Yeah, okay, so, all those in favor of accepting that, please say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right, Newfane has their first speed feedback sign, hopefully to help with some safety, traffic calming. All right, moving right along. River Road Bridge update.
We kind of already went over that.
We did, but it's
Um,
on the agenda.
Nothing other than that, just that they're gonna lower it, and things were progressing as scheduled, so they think it'll take about a week longer than they originally thought. but
So when's the target date to be finished?
20th of November, was that?
Remember when it was?
Something like that.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be nice for all those people on River Road. Sure. All right, we have a highway crew vacancy. We have discussion and decision, but Shannon is not here, and I did not receive the applications. Did you receive the applications,
Yes,
Jay?
I
Did
did.
you guys look them over?
No.
Well, of the last 2 I didn't.
We got 2 more in today that I had talked with. We had,
I thought we had 6. Did we have 6 total?
Yes, but some of them,
Some of them were, the applications were not completed.
yeah, I think we ended up with 8.
8.
So the ones with absolutely no experience and no CDL, we eliminated. And then, they narrowed it down to 4 that at least had CDLs. And, one of them has since gotten a job. One only had tractor trailer experience over the road, but no.
So you have 2 that are qualifying?
Mhm.
Did you interview them both?
We did. And I think Chris and I are both in agreement that Mike Fontaine was the top candidate that we had.
yes, very much so.
And can you share any of that?
He worked for the town of Wardsboro for 2 or 3 years, was it? I can't remember exactly now. And then he's been the road foreman for the Stratton Mountain for the last 4, I believe. So,
Thought he said 6.
it might be 6. It seems like it's only been 4, but it's been quite a while.
Yeah.
So he's got great experience and lives in Brookline, so it's close by.
Are we prepared to make a decision?
So,
Okay.
I would be.
I'm sorry?
I would be
if he's willing,
prepared.
Okay.
if he's willing to accept the job, so,
Yeah,
All right, so, do we need a motion?
I make the motion that we accept
Mike Fontaine.
Mike Fontaine for the highway vacancy for Newfane.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Carries 5-0-0.
it would be great to have him come on board sometime so we can meet him. Yep. Okay, Shannon is not here, so we don't have an administrative assistance report.
I'd like to just say too that, what I want to say to Jay so far, he's doing a hell of a job on the roads.
Oh, yeah?
Staying on top of things and, you know, the trees down, he went down, so he's cutting it out of the way, cleaned it up.
Well, and I think overall, there were a total of 2 culverts done on Newfane Hill. One earlier and then
Right.
one today, yeah?
Yep.
And it was really nice for the signs to go up and explain where the work was being done and the approximate time that it was being done. And I thought that was very kind to people who live there. So thank you very much. Thank you for your good work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we don't have an administrative assistance report, and so we're moving on to scheduled members of the public. One of the things that I did want to mention is that we do have rules of procedure for the Newfane Selectboard. And one of the things about public discourse and discussion is that it says here, although we can amend that, we need to give you a reasonable opportunity to express your opinions about matters considered by us, as long as order is maintained according to these rules. And at the end of any agenda item, but before any action is taken, you may be given 5 minutes for open public comment. If you need more than that, you just have to ask for more. So we just want to make sure that we try to stay within our agenda time schedule. That being said, we do have Ralph Meima from Green Lantern. You are scheduled. Would you come up here if you wouldn't mind? We can give you a chair, or
I can stand if it's okay.
you can stand.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Ralph.
I'm going to pass this around. What I wanted to do is to just check in and give you an opportunity to ask questions, because and give you a sort of an update.
Yes,
Because
that's what we need.
Yeah, so some things have happened recently. Most important recently being that 2 weeks ago, on the 2nd, we issued the so-called 45-day notice, which is the notice in advance of applying for a certificate of public good for the landfill solar project. And it's also been almost exactly 6 months now since you signed the lease with us. So I figured that the 6-month anniversary of the lease signing and the 45-day notice were sort of good milestones for me giving you a quick update of what's happened and what happens next and where we are in the process. Basically, we don't send out a 45-day notice until we're really confident that all the important bases of our feasibility study have been covered. So over the past 6 months, we've been out there with several different parts of the Agency of Natural Resources. We've been out there with our consulting biologist. We've been in communication with Green Mountain Power. We've been in working with Shannon all along. And basically the site has come out very clean and simple and straightforward for solar. We have a design which, unfortunately, what I printed out for you is really supposed to be on 11 by 17, so it's extremely hard to read. But the key point I wanted to get across there is that there is room for a 150 kilowatt array on top of the landfill cap that will work fine. It stays more than 50 feet away from wetland and stream buffers. It does not require any tree clearing. And
Really?
yeah,
That's surprising.
yeah, we were able to just orient it properly so that it would operate at full output. It's pushing it a little bit, but they were able to configure the panels so that there was no need to cut any trees or trim any trees around the eastern, western, and southern edges. We were also able to get a waiver from the Agency of Natural Resources and not have to do a rare, threatened, and endangered species survey because it's a landfill cap. It's seeded. and it's not the sort of place where you would find those types of species. So, one by one, the important obstacles have fallen to being able to develop a small solar array there. This has been sort of a voyage of discovery for me because this is the first landfill project that I've worked on. So I've learned that the whole permitting process is a lot more complicated than putting solar out in just an ordinary field or pasture. So I've been thinking of it in terms of sort of like no pun intended, but it's like a three-ring show going on at the same time because we've been pursuing the normal energy siting permit, the certificate of public good. It turns out that the landfill cap is under what's called a custodial care agreement, which means that a certain point was reached where the state kind of turned over custody or long-term care of the array of the landfill, the capped landfill to the town. And so one of the things that Shannon has had to do is to apply for an amendment to the custodial care agreement, which would allow a solar project to be put on top of this capped landfill. She's not here tonight, and I was going to check in with her this week, so I'm not exactly sure where that application stands. But I've been providing her with information, and she's been putting that application letter together. So that's another thing that can happen more or less, around now. And the other thing is that, along with the custodial care amendment and also the ordinary certificate of public good application, we've had to work through the Department of Environmental Conservation's Solid Waste Division to get them to say that the capped landfill qualifies as a preferred site for solar siting. And in the regulation that governs net metering, there is a definition. One of the definitions of preferred site is a capped and closed sanitary landfill. So, in theory, it should be fine. But A&R wanted to make sure that this was indeed the case. The folks we're dealing with there are Sean Donovan and Buzz Cerwillo. And they are waiting for a report from us, which I was told would be ready today from one of our contractors, Weston and Sampson, which basically goes down the A&R solar landfill policy. There is such a policy. And basically checks off the items that they're concerned about that have to do with the sort of geotechnical stability of the cap and stormwater runoff and so forth. So we're waiting for that, but as far as we can tell, it's going to be fine. So we'll be getting that report to A&R as soon as possible. Shannon will automatically get a copy. And what that should all do is put us on track to be able to submit the full permit application sometime around the first week of December.
That's your hope.
That's my hope. I don't see at this point any major obstacles. One thing is for sure, and that is that the 45-day notice includes sending out information about the project to all abutters, Planning Commission, Select Board, Regional Commission. I haven't been contacted by any abutters, but there may be some who want to speak. Duplicating, to some extent, the efforts, the custodial care amendment application also requires notification of abutters. In fact, it goes down the same list that the 45-day notice goes down, and then adds a few others, including the solid waste district. That could generate some public discussion, I'm not sure. I have to go to the Regional Commission on November 7th or 8th, I think it is, to the project review committee there to also provide this kind of briefing and an opportunity to answer questions. They may have some things that they want to talk about. That's a normal, routine step in the process.
Nothing different.
Yeah. So so far it's looking good, but there's still a few twists in the road. And the last thing I just wanted to talk about during the time I have is, but I'll stop for a second for questions, is that I do also want to talk about the the community array aspect of it and what we're finding out so far. But I thought I would stop here in case you had any other questions.
Do you have any questions that we'd like to ask?
On the access road, do you have to put down any buffer below your gravel surface to protect the cap in that area, like clay or anything like that?
Well, I'm pretty sure that will be a permanent road there, but it'll consist of some sort of landscaping cloth and then, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 inches of gravel on top.
I don't think the landfill went out that far anyway.
No, landfill, where the gate is, there's no land,
So
right
there-
straight back, there's no landfill.
Okay, okay.
There.
So it's outside the cap.
It's all to the
Right.
right of that.
I see, okay, yeah. The cap goes up very close to the fence, but I guess up at that point, it doesn't extend.
Along the road,
Yep.
roadside.
Well, it sounds like persistence is one quality you must have a lot of, because it sounds like it's a very slow process, but very thoroughly done.
Have you had to give up any kilowatt because of having to reshape the array?
No, we've been able to hold it at
Good.
150.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Anybody like to share their opinion or ask a question?
I just thank you for being always in great communication with us and working diligently to get this done.
No, thank you for saying that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one thing about this business I've learned is that things can sometimes take an enormous amount of time. And so, looking at our business as a whole, the projects are taking longer because the regulations are more complex. And the sites are much more problem prone because, we, probably for good reasons and certainly popular reasons, the solar development industry has been steered away from, greenfield sites, agricultural land, that type of thing, and toward brownfields, Superfund sites, landfills, old capped mines, gravel pits, and so forth. But it's probably a good thing that we're focusing on using that kind of marginal land first for energy generation.
Yeah, I think so too.
But those kinds of sites usually have much more baggage in terms of hazardous waste or something else. Last week we had I went to one of the select board meetings in Windsor, and we got a positive vote for preferred site designation from the Windsor Select Board, but it took a year. So anyway, this just goes with the territory. One thing I did want to talk about quickly was that when we originally proposed this project, the idea was that it would be a community array where a slice of the array would be accounted for by a municipal off-taker, like a town or a school or something like that. But that most of the array would be available for purchase. The actual panels would be folks would be able to purchase them. Homeowners, businesses, anybody who can use tax credits and net metering credits. And that's still our intention, but I just wanted to let you know that selling panels like that is turning out to be more challenging than we thought in today's environment. We have an array that's ready. We have the permits. We're ready to begin construction on an array in Guilford, and so we're in the thick of trying to sell panels that are on that array. It's going pretty slowly, and we're not quite sure why. It may be that people just aren't aware of it. It might be that a lot of people are looking at their budgets and being very cautious about spending money on solar for their homes and businesses. But we're going to just kind of watch that space for the time being and see what's possible for the Newfane landfill array. We're already taking orders from anyone who's interested and are actively marketing the availability of, it's all contingent on whether or not we get the permits, but we've been actively selling. Some of you may have heard us on VPR. We have an underwriting message. We've been advertising in the Brattleboro Reformer and the Commons. We have a website, and we would love to, populate most of that array with local folks.
in the contract, we did state that there would be a 90-day first sell to households here in Newfane.
Mhm.
And after the 90 days, then it could be sold to, I suppose, anyone. So I would think that once we get the permit, or we could just, if you say they could be looking into buying it now, perhaps we need to get the word out to Newfane household that we get first dibs for 90 days if you'd like to purchase some electricity through your own panel. So we need to get, how do we get that? Would they then, would a resident here or a homeowner call you or call Shannon, or how does that work?
That's a good question. We have, I mean, you can call me, you can go to our website, you can submit an inquiry online.
Yeah?
There are a few different ways to get in touch with us. And there's a purchase agreement where people can just put down a deposit without, buying the panels. And then basically we wait and see until we have the permit or not. I would like to post some things here in the town building and in the public library and a few other places that are visible. I don't have access to the Front Porch Forum in Newfane, but if the Front Porch Forum is being used here, I could go through, for example, Shannon. Road.
Also our website.
Yep, on our town website.
But I'd like to get the word out to as many people
That
as
would
possible.
be great. Yeah, so perhaps talk to Shannon about that, and then Shannon will keep us informed and as to the conversation, and maybe have some really nice little,
Flyer.
flyer, something like that, and the website and all of that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's great. I know that we're interested, and so
Okay. All right, well, I'll
I
coordinate
think there's
that with you.
probably many households in Newfane that would be interested.
Yeah, and it's not a big array, so in the end, we're only talking about a few dozen households that it could supply.
So will this flyer, you will have the information in terms of all the financial there, and versus if you don't, are you going to be saving a lot of money right away, or is it going to be down the road? And
Yeah, we can provide all that.
yeah, that would be great.
But I just wanted to note caution that it's turning out to not be an easy sell. It's for most people, it's a very significant investment, and it's on the order of buying a new car. The only difference being that these actually generate
Savings.
cash flow savings,
yeah.
exactly. But time-wise, if we do get the permit application submitted by the first week in December, it could take anywhere from 3 to 9 months for the Public Utility Commission to give us an answer. And I can't see why they wouldn't, but it'll be anywhere from March to September before they give us the green light. My guess is that it'll be constructed sometime next summer. So we have plenty of time to get the word out.
Right, sounds good. Thank you
Great.
so much.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is an update and discussion from the recycling committee. Before you start, I'd just like to say that I really loved getting this. And I did spend a lot of time going through it personally and making notes. As you see, this is the first page. And I'm not going to discuss it right now, but I would like at the end of your presentation to give us all a chance to give our opinions about this and anything else that relates to this, including the audience.
Sure, Johanna Gardner's.
Can I say one other thing before we start?
Sure.
Some of the people were not here early in the gathering tonight, and I just want you to know that a lot of us really expressed so much thank you and appreciation to the work you've done
This is a
to
lot of
present
work.
this. And that we were really acknowledging all of you for the time you've put in and the commitment to this. So
Yep.
if you weren't here, I want to make sure you know that we spent quite a bit of time just telling you how much we appreciate it.
Thank you. So Tristram Johnson and Joan Weir also worked on this process with me. I was on the Wyndham Solid Waste Board before the MRF closed down last July, and so I kind of got a little more versed on the whole recycling story through that that job of attending meetings down there. Tristram and Joan both bring a lot of experience from their work and their real lives, so it's been kind of an interesting process going through looking into options for the town. I had a couple things I wanted to say before I started going through the options that we came up with. I think that the first thing is that we have to keep in mind what's the most convenient and cost-effective thing to do for residents so that they can recycle. What can we do to make it cheaper, better, easier? And that sort of blends into item 2, which is we really want to encourage people to recycle. Item 3 I wanted to mention has to do with municipal services versus private services, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later when this comes up, but just something to think about. And from there, I think I'm just going to go right into looking at the various options we came up with, and you have had plenty of time to look at them, so you'll probably have questions, but I think it'd be nice if the public could hear what they are.
Are these the ones that are listed in this
Yes.
book? Okay.
So our proposal, we started out by saying what the law says right now, which is that this is Act 148, which says that blue bin recyclables, that is plastic and glass bottles, cans, aluminum products, and paper by July 2015 have to be recycled. Leaf and yard debris and clean wood by July 2016, and food scraps, organic compostable kitchen waste by July 2020. So that is a lot of material that needs to be taken care of. We are the recycling committee. We were tasked with looking at all possible solutions for the town to deal with recycling, and that actually led us into looking at other things as well, such as a transfer station, and how best to set something like that up. So let's see, the existing conditions we said were that currently residents either have to hire a private hauler to take care of their trash and their recycling, or they have to take all that stuff down to Brattleboro. And as many of you may know, when you go to the transfer station in Brattleboro now, if you have to go on a Saturday, good luck, because there are a lot of people there. And in order to recycle, you have to go through the same flow as all the people who are getting rid of their trash.
That's
No.
changed.
Oh, is it
Yeah,
changed?
just there.
Oh, good.
And
Yeah, that's
now you
not
you
true.
drive around back, so you still
Oh,
have to navigate the traffic, but you don't have to wait in line to
Okay,
get
good.
checked.
Well, that's good. I was hoping that we would do that. I went to one
This is
Tuesdays,
important news.
and I haven't been there for a while. One other thing is that according to Joan, you had figures on how many households we had. I think it was somewhere around 1,200 or so in Newfane who generate trash all the time. In other words, they're here full time.
So Doris maybe has an updated number?
I'm shaking my head because we came up with 50.
Oh, you did?
I'm talking
Okay.
about Tristan.
Well,
1,500?
talking with Bob Spencer, he said 15 too, but we weren't entirely
Yeah, I
sure.
think that one of the things I looked at was the Lister information where some of the households are seasonal. And so at some times, during the year, weekends, they may need services, but it's not 1,500 permanent households or
So low,
properties.
low season might be 1,200, high season might be 1,500.
Yeah, it's in that range.
Okay.
You want?
Yes.
Just as a general caveat, all of the numbers that are in the booklet are guidelines, not necessarily hard facts, and
Right.
therefore the foundation of a decision. We pulled these things together to give you scenarios that you could work with, that allow you to figure which one was more compelling, not to give you the precise exact answer. Thank you.
Right, I did make some calls today, and I sort of have a different view of like what the sticker costs at the dump, and different figures that are a little bit different than what's
Yeah.
in here.
Yeah, I think what Tristram said is very
Yeah,
true,
that-
you know,
that's-
there are certain limitations to what we could do, so. Anyhow, in one of our early meetings, we met with Bob Spencer, who's a font of knowledge, and he said, he kind of walked us through various scenarios and what they might cost, and he said that a 4-person household usually produces about 3 tons of trash a year. And if you have your trash taken away by a hauler at $40 a month, which is on the cheaper side, the total cost to residents would be $576,000. So that's for the town. So our options for waste management in the town are, we came up with 5 of them, and really the 5th one doesn't seem to be particularly viable, but I put it on there anyways. The first one is that the town does not provide any kind of waste service or hauling. Each household hires their own hauler or deals with their own household waste, which is what we have right now. I put down pros and cons and the cost. Maybe I'll come back to those after. I think there's going to be a lot of discussion, so it's probably better to move through these fairly quickly. The second option is that the town provides residents with recycling bins. And that quickly got us into the third option, because once you get into finding a place to have recycling bins and having a fence and all that stuff, you almost have a transfer station. So that's kind of how we jump from one to the next. So the third option is that the town constructs a municipal transfer station for Newfane residents. The fourth, moving away from the municipal option to the private option, is that the town puts the transfer station out to bid. So the town would look for someone else to create a transfer station in Newfane. So it would be a private outfit. And then the fifth option was something that I learned about not that long ago, which is called fast trash, in which one of the local haulers essentially brings a compacting truck to a piece of land in Newfane and parks it there for, say, 3 hours on a Saturday morning, and residents can bring their trash there, throw it in the compactor, pay however much. The only problem is that nowadays the town requires, the state requires that those haulers also provide composting services and recycling. And so the haulers who I spoke to all said, we are already working 50 plus hours a week. There's no time to do this, and frankly, you don't make any money doing it.
So they would end up having to place essentially 3 trucks. One for waste,
Yeah,
one for recycling,
yeah,
and then one for brush,
right.
essentially.
Yep, so let's see, the first option, that's, like I said, not providing anything. The town is not in the waste management business and lets people continue to do their own thing. The second one, with the recycling bins, we figured that we would need a piece of land on which to have the bins, because they can't be out here anymore. We would probably need a chain link fence around the bins. I did get a quote from someone for a chain link fence. I don't remember exactly what it was, and I'm not sure.
I don't think
21,000.
21,000.
All right.
Yeah, I see.
So 21,000.
326 55.
Yeah, and we did discuss with you also earlier, maybe having some kind of a swipe card for residents so that they could get in and out without having to have any personnel there.
And that would be extra.
And that would be
an
extra,
extra
yeah.
purchase.
Yeah, so you're talking a piece of land, the fencing, we have the bin, so that's not an expense, but then also a
You
swipe
need
card.
maintenance, you need somebody to maintain that property and make sure that the gates were working and
Yeah.
so there would be somebody to have to pay to do that.
So choice number 3, option 3 is the town constructing a municipal transfer station for Newfane residents. This is something which a number of towns have done, and they seem to do pretty well with it. I'll read the pros and cons, and then I'm going to let Tristram get up and talk to this because he did a lot of research about this choice. So the pros are that residents who bring their trash to the transfer station rather than hiring a hauler can save significantly. There's less gas and time used for an average household because of not having to go to Brattleboro to dispose of their waste. There's improved access to recycling. The town can prepare to face new requirements coming down from the state to accept food waste. The town will control costs and be able to keep prices down versus relying on outside providers of services. Permanent removal of waste facility from near the town offices will mean a cleaner center of Newfane. It would create at least one part-time job, and the town can generate some income from items collected. The cons is the difficulty of finding land on which to site the transfer station. The town may need to purchase a piece of land. The starting cost to set up the transfer station, he'll put some figures on that. The station will need an attendant, and there will be a waste area as a result. And there may be other pros or cons that I didn't think of, but that's what we came up with. And I guess after you talk, maybe we can talk a little bit about a municipal versus a private transfer station. And I'm going to step out of the way and Tristram can come up.
Thanks for kicking off.
You're welcome.
Before I get started, I realized when I was sitting down that I overlooked including one piece of information. Actually, it's several pages. We tried very hard to come up with a generic, blind look at all the options. And one of those options was to look at the town garage site. And one of the things that I did was try to find a base map at a scale that would allow me to figure out, using engineers' transportation programs, to see what you need in terms of turn radius for X size truck with X size trailer to be able to move in, turn, and negotiate. I couldn't come up with the site plan at the scale that I needed to use with the diagrams that I had. So I will make the copies and it'll be available tomorrow. But essentially it's a tool that allows you to look at a piece of property, lay these two things together, and be able to decide whether the space is there for maneuvering. That's all it's about, just maneuvering. But it's a question we've all had, and I meant to include it, but I got so involved with the Jamaica situation, I just overlooked that one, so I'll hand it on.
You've got to add into that also maneuvering into and out of the compactor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, that's what, yeah, right, exactly. So anyway, it's a tool I'll hand off tomorrow for you to use as you look at different choices. If you've got a site and you need to figure out whether there's space enough to maneuver, this will help you do that, whatever that site might be. When I looked at Jamaica, I found it was really an interesting situation. And so what I gave you after having talked to Lou was essentially the full-time year-round households that are users. Even though there were 1,000, I used the number 500. And it probably was in, when I thought about this, when I looked at the total package and then finally came to a cost per household per year, I stuck with the 500 number of households, when it probably should have been 1,000. Since there are 1,000 households, they're all going to get taxed. So that's one thing you might want to look at when you look at those numbers to determine what is the annual cost per household following that model when all households are included. But I just tried to be consistent with the database I was using so that it would be easy to follow the scenarios from beginning to end. The unique thing about the Jamaica site is its topography. It's a one-lane road up a hillside into a steep zone, which meant that there's no other access. It's a longitudinal piece, which provides, as you were asking, Gary, plenty of room for the pull-in, drop-off, reposition, haul out, reposition, and install. As you can see in the pictures, there's plenty of room for the trash compactor as well as the recycling bins. And it's an acre and a quarter, an acre and a half. It also allows space for yard waste. It also allows waste for construction waste. And it also has an interesting small building that was set up for resale of salvage materials. I didn't pursue who was getting the money out of that. I felt that was an interesting option, but not really relevant to the question. And the whole point was really to show that in their situation, for their distance from Ferry Road,
That's it.
and that there were fewer people, that their local option appealed for the driving time. And the other piece was that there are a fair number of second homes managed by property management companies, and therefore it's far easier for them to go from what they were managing to something local. And so that convenience factor also drove the success of the Jamaica project. The gross startup costs were, once they got the compactor in at $13,000, and then the construction of the shed at 10 and a hair, they already had the space, and they'd already been for a period of time in building up basically the hump that really allowed easier access to both the recycle bins and the trash compactor as well as drainage. So that there were some conveniences for them. And then I also included pictures of the sign that shows the hours, and the sign that says, if you try to drop off the stuff here at the gate, we're watching and we'll get there. So, which is the issue we had over here, and the issues we'll always have wherever anything goes in. But it's their effort to try to control for that. What I found was that in their setting, where distance really was the limiting factor.
That's the factor.
It really was the limiting factor. It made it far easier for those residents to accept a local. Now the interesting thing was that for the family I talked to, there are only 2 people and they're dedicated recyclers. They're spending something like $36 a year for the trash bags, which is the income stream for the system. And that's because they're dedicated. So they're recycling everything, and then the $36 pays for the bags where it's really trash that has to be compacted. And but once all of that is calculated, and you come down to a household cost, again at the 500, you end up spending a lot less than commercial hauler. But that means all the things work together. That the setup and the pricing is effective and efficient, and you get people willing to do that. Whereas we learned here that people already have the habit of going to Ferry Road. If they could be turned around so that it became a larger percentage, the numbers may be here to make that work. So.
But I think one of the big things in Jamaica, they don't have private haulers anyways, do they?
Up in Jamaica?
Yeah, Jamaica. They
No,
don't
that's
have,
correct. Yeah,
they don't
they
have regular garbage trucks coming around door to door. They never had. It's been like the caretakers that do it.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons their little station always appealed to them pretty good.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it used to be
Because of
pretty
the
much for
distance.
nothing, except for the garbage. It was all through the taxes and stuff, so.
You're quite right that they're so far out that commercial haulers have a hard time rationalizing the expense to go pick up and come back.
Yeah, it's just like, even like right here, I have a private hauler. I pay $40 a month.
Mhm.
You're saying it's a bigger savings by going to Barbara with your garbage and stuff like that. You're paying $35 for a sticker
Mhm.
and $3 a bag for garbage. And then you got gas driving down, and if your
Yeah.
time's worth anything, the way I look at it, you go down every week, you're spending probably at least $20 with the gas, your time, and
Yeah, right.
your $3 a bag and stuff like that, and I'm paying $10 a week to have a private hauler if they get away.
Yeah,
And I don't have to go no more than just lug it outside the garage in
Mhm.
5 minutes, I'm not wasting an hour of my time, which even at $8 an hour.
Right. I would really plead with you all that tonight not to spend time mincing over our numbers, because they're simply guidelines, and what ought to end up happening is you finally focus on what you think makes the most sense. That's when you should really start hair splitting over the numbers. Our guidance tonight is just generally, this is what we found in these particular options. And I think it would be not very helpful if we got into that kind of minutia tonight.
I agree.
So, I don't know that there's anything more I can add. I found it really interesting that those software packages exist that allow one to figure out whether there's maneuvering space or not. And I'm looking forward to handing that off to you tomorrow. So,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I recently heard of a situation, which I hope is not spreading, but where that's, some of our citizens are trash hoarding on their property and improperly storing their trash. And this has attracted rats, which have spread to their neighbors' houses, and their neighbors have had to call in exterminators to clear the rats out of their house. This is something that whatever we have to do, we have to avoid.
And, any responses or any other questions from the audience?
Other questions, but I'd be happy to hear you how to respond to that first.
Well, one of the things that I'm thinking about this is the cost issue. That we've talked about how, you know, for the average household, $40 a month to get your trash taken away, you know, that's about $500 annually. In the figures that Tristram came up with, I think that the cost per household was significantly lower than that, right? So
Cost was what?
the cost per household when there's a transfer station in the town is significantly less. So if you have people who are struggling to make ends meet and you offer them a way to get rid of their trash that's local and it's cheaper, you may not see
Exactly.
this kind of issue arise. So that's part of what I think is important to think about is the savings that a transfer station can represent. And you know, I wanted to just mention quickly about municipal versus private.
No, I should have mentioned this when I was up there because the audience doesn't know this. I tried to extrapolate in the most simplistic way the Newfane scenario based on the Jamaica facts. So I took, with Doris's help, numbers that in one way allowed me to project, if we copied them, simply increasing the scale by 3, which is really what it is. If we increase by 3, what they do and do it here, that's the set of numbers that is in the report. Now, there are lots of reasons to argue about whether that's legitimate, you know, basic theory, but I just tried to, through that, say this is what might be the scenario. So, just so that you all know as well. Thank you.
So I was just going to mention the difference between a municipal choice versus a private choice. I know from talking to the state that when a private individual or company sets up a transfer station, it will involve a select board. You guys will have work thrown on your plate because of that. They need to get all kinds of permits depending on what they're doing, and those will all have to travel through you. So it's not just, you know, you put it out there and it's in someone else's court. It will still be work for you. And I do think that it's really important to think about what does a municipal service offer versus what is a private one, because when you have a municipal service, you control it. You know, you dictate what the price is and you dictate what the hours are, and you know what's going on. And the MRF is a perfect example. We had a beautiful thing. I mean, with its flaws, it was flawed, but it was a good thing that was going on down there in Brattleboro, where the, you know, the Wyndham Solid Waste was dealing with all of our recyclables, and it really didn't cost us very much. And they, you know, the vote went the wrong way, and the rug got yanked out from under us, and now we're all in a pickle, and it's very expensive to deal with this stuff. And, you know, this municipal service that was actually working pretty well went away, and it's just, you know, something to keep in mind, that when you have to depend on a private service, you lose control of the cost of, you know, what kinds of things are going to be put in a waste facility here. How many trucks is that gonna mean? Will it be tractor trailers? Will it be pickup trucks? You know, it's just something that's gonna come up, so I think you just have to be aware of that.
I did have one comment on the option 1. It appears that it's just, there's actually 2 parts to the option 1. One is hiring a hauler, having them come to your home. But the other part, section B, is the dealing with it. And that is basically driving it in yourself.
Right.
And I called 4 neighbors on my hill today, and 3 of them hire a hauler, and 1 of them drives it in. And that's what they're doing now. And the ones that I talked to who are hired haulers, there were 2 different haulers, and they absolutely love that service. They love it. One was for $420 annual a year. Another one was, let's see, where's the other one? Was $288 a year. And the other one was $548 a year. So there is a range, but the average, it's not the same for everyone. So some people are not paying $500 a year. Some people are only paying $288 a year. So to portray it as, I know that's a figure that we were talking about, but there's 2 separate options within the option 1. The neighbor who drives it in, let's see, where's that figure? It's $136.80 a year. So there's different options within that option 1, and I just wanted to point that out because it didn't seem really clear to me and emphasized enough. And
What was the what was that?
I'm sorry?
What was the 100 something?
The $136.80 a year. Of course, you have to add gasoline onto that.
This
They're
is somebody
driving it
driving
in.
it.
Yeah. But they can be also going to the bank or doing other errands. Yeah, so it's not. But just wanted to let you know that those are, instead of just one thing, which is hiring a hauler, there is that option as well. People are doing that.
Right?
Right.
You have those 2 options.
Did you have something to share?
Yeah, I do. When you say that there are different prices with haulers, you have a choice with what you want the hauler to do. Some people only hire a hauler to pick up garbage, maybe twice a month. Other people hire a hauler to have garbage picked up 4 times, every week. Some people don't even have them pick up their recycling. In our case, we have a hauler, a private hauler, and he comes every week. And every week he picks up garbage, and every other week he picks up garbage and recycling. So we have 2 recyclings basically a month and 4 garbage pickups. And that in total costs us $46.50. But if we just wanted garbage picked up or recycling picked up, or, it'd be much less.
But you're also 2 people households, right?
Excuse me?
Aren't you 2 people households, both
Yeah.
of you? I mean, you gotta realize there's a whole range of people.
Right,
So
absolutely.
I think it's important, like Tristan
Right.
said, not to focus on specifics, but to
Right.
think about too, what do Newfane residents want? That's really what I
That's
feel like that's
Also,
our
how much do
guiding.
you want your hauler to do?
Yeah, sure.
You can
Or-
have minimum
yeah, or
service or maximum
Everybody's household
service is different.
functions somewhat differently. So, you can only do sort of an average
Exactly.
and figure out from there. But again, I think it's important, it's great that you're calling people and finding out. Some people are gonna be very happy.
I figured at least I could come up with a handful. I mean, it's not a scientific, study or survey, but at least it gives some idea that there's a lot of people out there with different ways of taking care of this. But the thing that was surprising to me is that the three people, even though one was $548, in fact, that person right there was extremely happy at using this hauler and has been using this hauler forever. And so they're very happy. So there's some happy people out there too as well.
Sure,
with what
I
they're doing.
suspect that when you try to find out what people want, there are a lot
Right,
of people
and
you
I think that's
hear
really
from.
important.
Yes.
I want to thank you very much. We do need to move on. All right, well, now we've got the public.
I have a couple questions and comment. It seems like you should be able to, by contacting the various haulers that come to Newfane, you should be able to get an actual number, like how many people hire a hauler in the town of Newfane. And then you could deduce from that how many people are hauling their own trash. Because those are two different beasts, and it seems like Newfane's going to have a different dilemma with people who have a hauler than, say, Jamaica, which apparently doesn't have as many. And the other thing is, would those haulers, if the town had a transfer station, would the haulers be interested in using the transfer station? It would save them money instead of going to Brattleboro.
It's a different kind of transfer.
And so is that something that's been considered or should be considered? And then there is probably a very small population, but like for instance, we recycle almost everything. So we go to the dump like 3 times a year.
That's us.
So,
Every 6
but we
weeks.
go recycling like all the time. So for us, it's a big pain in the butt to have to go to Brattleboro to recycle. We can deal with that if we need to, but it seems like there are lots of people who recycle more than they make trash. So it seems like we should do something to promote the recycling in the town. People have their way of dealing with their trash and it seems
That's
to work.
right.
But recycling is required by the law. It's only getting more strict on what they want us to recycle. So it seems like
Agree with you.
we should really see this as a public good that is good for the state as a whole, and we should embrace it. And I'm wondering, we used to have the bins out here, and it sounds from the tone of the conversation that people leaving their trash was just too much of a problem. But we always look at those cameras and like, okay, we bought those cameras to nail the people who are leaving the trash here, but has that never worked? Because it seems like we did have a location, didn't have a fence, didn't have a person. We could just recycle. There was a camera to bust the people who left us. So why can that not work?
Well, one of the reasons why is that for a while the camera was pointed in such a way, and the people would drive and park their cars in such a way that you could not get a clear picture of their license plates. And oftentimes at night, and it was difficult to really make. And then plus, we don't hire a person to go through those tapes, and so it might become. Somebody comes to work here and they see a piano, let's say this is just, they see a piano tossed up next to the, and they go, oh no, and then they run the tape and they try to see who brought the piano in, and that takes quite a long time because you don't know exactly when they brought the piano in. And so we would have to hire, I would think if we were to really make it effective, we would have to hire somebody to come in every day, and we would have to set it up in such a way that we would be able to this person would be able to actually ID the license plate of this person, and then spend the time to contact authorities. And so that's one of the reasons why it did not work.
Well, one of the biggest reasons was we didn't have a budget for it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
I mean,
And that's
Waste management was 35,000 or 30,000 a year, 27, whatever it is.
Mhm.
They had so many trips that they included coming up and picking up. When they stopped doing it, it was going to a private hauler at what you got marked down here is like 170 things plus $55 a ton, and so on and so on. And we didn't really have a real clear thing. There's no budget to pay for that.
We couldn't put together a budget. We didn't have enough information to put together. This is going to get.
And I mean, like the whole thing on recycling,
Information.
till probably 2020 comes by when they tell you gotta start doing your solid foods and all that, nobody's gonna have a real clear cost of what it's gonna cost you.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's just gonna keep going up and up and up. And right now, it's inching its way in, and once it gets that way, it's gonna be, when it's mandatory on everything, it's gonna cost everybody money.
So do you guys have now enough information that you can actually start to get a sense of what recycling costs? Because that cost is going to be there. It doesn't matter whether we're paying for it individually or the town is paying for it. We're still paying for it. if the town can do it in a way that saves a little bit of money overall, even though the costs are still going up, and saves maybe carbon and the amount of driving, which may or may not be the case. It's hard to tell because there's so many variables. But it seems like last year the town meeting pretty clearly, if it wasn't unanimous, I don't remember, but it was pretty loudly said, we embrace the idea we want to recycle in this town. We want to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And we understand it's going to cost some money. But it costs people money now. It costs money for us to run our junk into Brattleboro, whenever we do. And it costs everybody that. So it seems like if you committed as a board to say, we embrace the idea that we need to accept the responsibility as a town to do this work, that would be really helpful in figuring out your ultimate decision on what to do.
We clearly heard town meeting, and Dan, and I think that we've been working with due diligence to try to come up with what is the best fit for the town. We realize we have to do something. And we want to be able to do something that benefits the most citizens at the lowest cost per citizen, and provides us with a clean and healthy environment. That's absolutely the goal, because the state's requirements are becoming more and more strict.
One last thing. You could probably save some money if you just made some wooden cameras and stuck them under that don't even need any maintenance and they do the same amount of good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the idea of having a swipe card, where that you would enter an area through a swipe card, cuts down a lot, because a lot of the people who were dumping out here were not people who lived in Newfane.
Right.
They were people coming back and forth from the mountains.
And
we
you
had
have
no
to
way to track
also
them down.
recognize that this is a waste facility. Once you have recycling bins, it is a waste facility, there will be waste.
Yep.
I think it's much more useful to just say, okay, we're gonna budget for a person to come once a week and clean it up, as opposed to having this losing battle where you're always going, oh my God, I can't believe they left stuff out there. They're gonna do it. It's just gonna happen. So you just have to say, okay, here's how we're gonna deal with it.
Okay, do you have 5 minutes?
Oh, I just wanted to add one more thing, which was cooperating with the town of Brookline was something we discussed and talked about from time to time, but we didn't go so far as including them in any of the options we presented. But several of them, could be done with another town if
Yes.
that was one way to cut down on costs.
We did have, originally have them on the agenda, but that didn't work out.
Yeah, so.
Okay,
I think that I had one just last thing, which was that I am willing, if you want me to try to meet with someone from A&R to see if there's some way to run a second driveway over at the town garage behind the salt shed. I know that there's wetlands there, but I was curious if that was something that you would want me to pursue.
yeah,
or-
Those are conservation lands?
Yeah, I can't speak for the board, but it seems a little tenuous because that is hiking area. It's conservation land. It's our town park.
Yeah, it
I
would
mean, our
be-
town forest.
It'd be seeing if it was a possibility.
Yeah, I don't know what the conservation easement is that
Right. Yeah, you have
manages
to
that
talk to somebody
land,
at the state.
but it may not be possible now that an easement is in place, if so.
Thank you. All right, we do need, yes, one more question, and then we have to move on.
The town is a member of the Williamsville Solid Waste Management District. And the current budget for that is $17,000 for this year, and it has gone down from previous years. And just to let you know that a penny on the tax rate raises $24,000, so it's less than a penny that you're paying. The solid waste district is, in their charter, is mandated to do all of the things that the state's requiring. So all of these things, the batteries, the hazardous waste days, they provide for the towns. The towns could not afford to do that.
They're still doing that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the hazardous waste days and.
But just to let you know that all of the things that you're talking about that need to be done, that need to be done by law, they are providing that and will be providing that as members of the district. I myself have been bringing my trash I'm a single person in the household. So it's much cheaper for me
Yeah,
to go to Brattleboro.
absolutely.
I mean, even when we had the recycling bins out here,
Yeah.
sometimes I bring my
Yeah.
recycling down there. And if I'm going to Brattleboro, that's not the only thing I'm gonna do.
That's right.
You know, I
So
plan
you
ahead and
don't really
have
need
a-
to factor the gasoline
I-
expenditures. The cost. Yeah.
So, for me, I think that when you think about what it's gonna cost, you have to think about what it's, I'm just saying right now, the penny raises like $24,000. So whatever you're thinking about with cost, you have to think about what it's gonna cost all of us taxpayers for that,
That's right.
you know. And to let you know also that the solid waste district, if you do nothing, will provide all of the stuff that you're talking about that's needed by law.
If you can get it to them. And we have some situations which have come up recently where that we've had complaints that people were throwing their garbage out their door and down the bank.
Well, they've been doing that for a long time.
They have,
And
and
it- and we
that
did-
won't necessarily stop. But in this case, the person who was doing it in part because they were disabled. And there may be, in fact, we all know of situations where there are people in our community who simply can't afford or
Right.
can't go to Brattleboro. And I think our solution has to encompass those folks as well as the folks who have their own trash being picked up now and they're recycled. And that's, they're happy with that, and those folks who wish to, like you and I, to take ours into Brattleboro
Yeah.
and do other things and get rid of it right there.
Also, to
at
let
the
you know
transfer
that there are, so far, for Newfane stickers down there for the $35 each, is $192.
And they've had a significant increase in the
It has
last
had
couple of
a
months.
significant
What, can you repeat
increase.
that, Dorothy? I didn't hear that.
For Newfane residents, so far, the stickers are $35, there's
Right.
192 that have been purchased from
Oh,
Newfane
yeah.
residents.
We
They
also,
keep- they-
Yeah, it's going up.
We do need to move on, and I want to thank you very much.
Thank
You've
you.
given us a lot of information. You've done a great job. We appreciate it so much, and it'll help us greatly.
Good luck.
And look,
Thank
yeah,
you.
and
Thank you
thank you
so
for
much.
giving us that tape.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
This is very good work, thank you.
Okay, it's time for unscheduled members of the public. Do we have any unscheduled members of the public? Thank you. We're moving right on. We have old business, Williamsville Hall, discussion. Come on up.
All right, I got some proposal.
Okay. Thank you,
Need
Steve.
to start on something, it's really not
Thank you.
too complex. But, Mike? A few extras if anybody.
Oh, thank you.
So, Steve Levine, Williamsville. I won't say Williamsville is part of the town of Newfane, because we all know that. So, a couple of things are going on. First, I wanted to talk about the mold.
Yes.
Yes.
So last week, Julian went down and he washed the back wall in the kitchen with some bleach water. And I went down this morning and there's no sign of
Oh,
mold.
that's
great.
good.
So we're planning, he needed help on the other side of the chimney, he couldn't move the shelf. So I'm gonna help him move the shelf. And we'll do that again.
Is
And I-
John part of your committee?
Yes, he's on the committee. And then there's that mold down in the cellar. If it's okay with you, near the boiler room,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to go down there and spray that with some bleach or disinfectant. And I noticed that there's a new hole in the wall down on ground level. So I'm gonna take a better look at that. I saw it from the cellar, didn't have time to go around and see if what we need to do to plug that up. Because I think, there's drainage water coming in
That's it.
and creating, mold.
You
So I
think the animal excreted that, or?
No, I think, no, I think it's just
It's,
damp. It's pretty
it's
damp
water,
down there
it's
on a dry summer day.
rainy
Yeah.
year, and it's just eroding the ground underneath there.
Right. So if you're good with this, solution, we can pursue it, and I think, hopefully that will take care of it. So,
Yeah, we did discuss getting someone down there to test that area.
Something has to be done in the furnace room,
In the furnace.
because the walls
Right.
are literally falling down.
Oh, the furnace room?
Oh, yeah. Have you all seen these pictures?
Yes.
No, briefly, but they were out of
Yeah.
context.
I think perhaps we need to get someone who knows about drainage and down there to look at the situation. I was thinking it might be as radical as that foundation wall, the lower wall downstairs, the back wall downstairs, which is part of the foundation. Perhaps that's seeping more water than it ever did, which would create the mold, and maybe letting, right below that is the high point of the cellar and water's coming in there. So, do you think we need to do that, or do you think, because this problem with the boiler room, it's been going on for quite a while, and I think it might be solved by sealing up the side wall.
Are we
You've gotta
talking,
have ventilation in there,
Yeah,
there's no
right.
ventilation in there.
Well, there's,
that's
yeah,
one of the
there is
reasons for the
ventilation,
mold.
of course.
Making my-
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Are we talking about a structural engineer?
I don't, no.
No.
Hey,
What
No, just
who-
a
so
local
who-
contractor
A local contractor?
who knows about this kind of work, drainage, did you
Well,
recommend?
we looked at it one day, Chris.
Yeah.
Did
And
recently?
we thought maybe the water up front was coming underneath the stairs, under the porch, because it's hollow under there.
Somebody's got to go in there during the pouring rain.
Mhm.
I've been down there, I know.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
this too.
that's,
And
yeah. so
see
we'll-
where, because it's obviously a brook coming down
Yeah,
through there
right.
at certain times.
Yeah, I mean, most of the houses on Main Street have, streams running through the cellars. So,
The only other thing you thought was maybe the water line, or the old spring or something, you said there's no water line up through
Yeah,
there?
there's a lot of water.
yeah, yeah.
Well, the sidewall's sitting right on earth.
I know,
And
that's
the
not
dry
good.
rots, the tendrils from the dry rot
Yeah,
look like they're about a foot long.
Yeah.
yeah. So, what, I don't have what would be a good plan to move forward with, do you think?
Well, at one time I thought, then Jay said when the next time it really rained, he was gonna be down there.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, that's a
but it
good.
hasn't really rained since we
Because it's
looked
coming
at it.
both sides of like that little, where the stairs go down, it comes both sides of that, so. And it's about the width of the porch.
Specializes in mold,
So like we was looking at, I think that
inspection?
it's hollowed down, the water settles in, and
Or
seeps down, goes through the wall somewhere.
Okay,
Well,
well, if he'll
okay.
do that, we can wait till his report. I mean, I'd be happy to go down with him and see what's going on, and then make a decision, because perhaps we need some better drainage, underneath the porch or something.
Well, we was looking at that day, what we thought it was, because it's a lot lower, and if that is where it's coming in, fill it in,
Yeah,
bring it up to grade.
okay.
And if you have to get some of that flowable cement,
Mhm.
seal off the sides and just pour it right over it, cap it
Yeah,
off.
and get it to run around the sides
Right.
of the building. I like that, that sounds
I
good.
guess if you don't rain, why don't you take a hose and stick under the deck and see if it comes
Fire
out.
department out
Mhm, yeah.
Yeah.
And what about the boiler? Do we need to do something to mitigate the problem? Take up the rotten sheet rock at least and replace it?
What's on the other side
After
of
we
that
figure
wall?
out what's going on?
Well,
there. I
yeah.
think that was fireproof sheetrock in there at one
Yeah.
time.
Oh, I meant,
It's certainly fireproof now, from the amount of water, it looks like it's only.
yeah, no, yeah, so this is the,
Yeah, that's a dry rot there.
Yeah,
I see it sitting right on,
so it's only been sheet rock on the inside.
yeah. What's on this wall? What's on the inside?
Oh, well, it's the boiler room, I don't think there's anything actually on it.
Okay, but that's not the kitchen area or the
Oh, no,
dining
no,
area?
this is in the cellar.
That's in the basement.
Yeah, way down.
All I know is that when we went there that day, it was so dank and wet and, it's almost like someplace where you would want to grow mushrooms.
Mhm.
They actually had,
There's money
the
in that.
white mold growing all around
Yeah,
and
I
up
was
into the
excited.
beams, and I'm thinking, I think somebody needs to look at this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been down there many times over the years. The situation now is worse than I've ever seen.
Right.
So I think something has happened with the ground outside that's letting in more water. So Jay will look at that situation hopefully, I think it's gonna rain soon, next week, and I'd be happy to go down, otherwise we get the fire department.
Well, I said,
Or we get a
let's just
hose.
take a water hose
Yeah.
and stick it up there and let it run
Yeah.
under it, but.
Yeah, run a test.
At least you know it's coming from the spot you put in the hose, you know?
Yeah, and then go from there, so.
Some of that water, where it's washes, is when they drain the hot water tank. That just drains down there on the floor.
When, who drains?
When you shut it up for the winter,
Oh,
I believe that just goes through, runs right underground, puts the dirt floors in there.
sure, yeah.
All right,
So that's, so we have a plan to deal with the mold, see what's going on. That's good. Okay.
Well, that is, sheetrock, you took it off there. What if you replaced it with like that foil back styrofoam insulation? You know, like that 2-inch insulation board comes 4 feet wide, 8
Right.
foot long. But it's got a foil on it, and you take that sheetrock off and then just nail that to the studs that's there.
Right.
The only thing I can say about that is you'd almost have to ask what it has to be for insurance purposes.
Mhm. Yeah, it needs to be fireproof. 'Cause it's, you know, the boil. Right, well, we have a plan for this situation. And this.
Could we have some kind of a plan written out for us?
Yeah, I could do
Okay,
that, yeah.
thank you.
List the steps we're gonna take to
That
deal with
sounds
the mold
Good
situation.
idea.
And we'll go ahead and deal with the mold up in the kitchen here.
Okay.
We'll clean that up.
See, Ray, to put this on your plate, but we've also got budget cycle coming up, and this would be something that'd be great for us to have
Yeah.
to consider
We're
during the
starting
budget cycle.
budgeting soon.
Yeah,
Right.
end of
Yeah,
October.
we
so-
can develop a plan once we get the water test done.
Yeah,
Naturally or artificially. Okay. So, this proposal that I handed out, it says, it's the weatherization proposal. So, the hall committee, we know and we firmly believe that there's a lot of interest in the community in keeping the hall open for more months than we do. So, we started thinking about what can we do to weatherize the buildings that could be used in the cold weather, but not use the whole hall. So we thought, well, you know, a lot of what we want to do, we can do downstairs in the lower level. Like have potlucks, we can have cabarets, we can have coffee hours, we can have game nights, so all that could go on downstairs. And if we did that, we wouldn't have to heat the entire building or weatherize the whole building. So we came up with this plan, and it consists of first insulating the walls on the lower level only, and then repairing the 10 windows downstairs, including one window in the upper ladies' room on the upper floor. Because, you know, there's 4 zones in the building. One is the main hall. The second zone is the dining hall and the room next to it, and that lobby area. The kitchen is the 3rd zone, and the 4 bathrooms, the 2 upstairs and 2 downstairs, are another zone. So we want to keep the bathrooms operable, so we'd have to heat all 4. So part of our plan is to fix the window in the upper ladies' room window and put a cellular shade on that. And then do that with the 8 windows remaining downstairs, as it goes here, and put cellular shades on that. And then the big item is to insulate the ceiling of the lower level.
You've got to insulate the floor from the basement up.
Well, according to charts and statistics that I've seen, heat loss through a cellar is 10 to 15%. Through, let's see, how does it go?
No,
Ceiling,
you're right. No, I hear where you're coming from. I understand that. But you still got to, keep the floors warmer.
yeah, but that's a big expense. So we're trying to do a
I
reasonable.
understand.
Yeah, that basically, you know, people recommend putting foam on, and putting foam insulation on. When we originally looked at estimates, that was about $15,000 to foam the whole cellar ceiling. So we thought we'll see how it would work without it by keeping the heat downstairs. The plan to insulate that ceiling consists of putting up strapping, wooden strapping, and then foam board and then, sheet rock. So we'd have a finished ceiling. It would be about 3.5 inches lower than the ceiling that is there now. And it's a nice 9-foot high ceiling, so it wouldn't really make it feel, closed in. And use the current heating system. And we feel if we're not heating the main room, if we're not heating the bathrooms above 55 degrees, and if we're not heating the kitchen maybe to 50 degrees, that the boiler will function and heat the areas that we need. Of course, when the hall isn't being used, we would, shut off the heat to the dining hall in the room next to it. And by doing this, we'd be able to institute the breakfast club plan that we had and talked about and approved the idea of, and do all these other activities that we'd like to see. So the idea is, well, we could do this. There's money. The hall committee would be willing. We have $5,000 in our donation fund. We're willing to put in $3,500 toward this proposal. And I know the town has approximately $27,000 in the capital expense fund for the hall. So if we took some of our money, some of that money, put it together, and go ahead. Some of these items we have firm prices on. Others we need to consider. Of course, if we can't get enough volunteer labor, then that cost of insulation will go up probably by $5,000. The pluses to this plan is that we believe if the committee will keep the hall open through December, that we could actually put this together and get it done, which would be wonderful. And I think, it's something that would really be enjoyed by citizens. And also, we're not doing anything it's basically, all these improvements are incremental if we ever want to actually weatherize the building. So we're fixing all the windows downstairs, we're getting cellular shades for them, we're insulating the walls, and if we decide at some point to go beyond that, nothing's really wasted.
One of the things that we do is we have a budget meeting scheduled for next Monday. It's just the select board's budget meeting. We're starting into the budget, budget season. And so I've got this we'll look into the capital expense fund, see what's still left there, and we can get back to you about what is left there.
Because of the nature of the building, some of these costs might be able to be offset with village center funds. The new village center program has funds to protect buildings like this. So there could be some money there that could help out quite a bit too. And maybe even take us further down that road toward weatherizing the building and making it fully usable year-round or during some extended period of the year.
Are those funds, if we went ahead and did this work, could we still be eligible for some of those funds?
We need to find that out.
So that's Lynn Forrest.
Lynn can help you with that. Yep.
Cool.
Okay, we do, thank you very much. Is there anything else?
Well, I was just wondering, so you're going to take this proposal under advisement?
We're
Think
going,
about it. You're not going to say yes, right? Should we proceed with getting?
Do we
more
have any
bids?
discussion about that?
I'd make a motion and let them go ahead and keep looking into it and see what they come up with, and I think anything you do to it is a good
Oh.
idea.
I'll second that.
Anything you do to it's gonna be a good idea.
Thank you.
I couldn't hear that motion, but did anybody hear that motion?
So
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we
That-
approve of the
Oh.
As a member of the committee, may I just make just a comment to support what Steve
We're
said?
right in the middle of a motion right now, so.
Okay, I didn't hear you invite other
I know,
comments.
I didn't, well, go ahead, say that motion
No,
again.
I said I make a motion that we approve them, go ahead looking into it, to see what they can do to utilize the money and what we've got
Okay,
budgeted
and
to.
we have a second. Do we have any discussion about this motion?
you have a second already?
Yes.
With Chris?
Chris?
Yeah.
And so it looks like the committee with the funds that you currently have available would be looking back to us for somewhere in the range of 2,500?
No, about 7,000.
It's about 7,000, okay.
If we can get the volunteer labor, otherwise it'd be
yeah, yeah.
another
Yeah, the total's 10,800.
Yeah.
75.
But they said they already had some of the money
Yeah.
in their funds.
3,500?
Yeah.
And we've probably got, like you said, at least 20,000 or
Yeah,
so.
27,000.
27, so.
Yeah, I've been watching it closely. And we really appreciate that you've been, adding that money to the whole fund.
So what is the number for the motion, did you just say 7,000?
No, I told them to look in to see what they had to do,
Okay.
to
I'm just
utilize
looking
what he's
into
got
it.
and what we've got too, if they have to, make it work.
So
We can't interrupt the motion.
by when?
Unless,
By when?
It's discussion time.
you have discussion.
Now it's
Now
discussion
you
time.
So
can,
the
this is
motion's passed.
discussion.
Well, by our next
Well, we haven't
meeting, you
voted
can come
on
in
it,
with some
so-
real numbers to us, right?
Yep,
By our
absolutely.
next-
By
Okay,
next
we
meeting?
have,
Can I,
we have a,
Annie, can
So
I just say,
Yeah, that's fine, whatever.
just want to say one thing. In order to make this work, we are also asking that we keep the hall open until December 1st instead of closing it on November 1st. Because if we can get this plan going, we need to be able to, the hall needs to be open. And if we can do that, then we could actually get it up and running and be open for the
Should've
winter.
gone oil.
Well, we really would monitor and keep, we would just be heating the two zones that need the heat, the bathroom and the kitchen. And it would be minimal.
I know for a fact, because I've been there with Todd,
Mhm.
the bathroom doors are left open half the time.
Right.
And I know who's doing it. I'm not mentioning any names, because I've seen it.
I have as well.
And that's gotta cease,
Mhm.
or that person shouldn't be on your board.
Could we could we put some of those simple screen closures so it automatically closes, which I believe is a health requirement anyway, that, any bathroom door has to close automatically. So it can't be left open, it'll have to shut.
Well,
And you could do it easily with just those little hinge springs.
And another problem with the bathroom doors there, the building goes like this. One day they close good, the next day they don't close at all.
well, we have significantly tightened up all those doors. So I wouldn't say they're, airtight, but they're a big improvement from what they used to be.
No, I mean, literally, they
Yeah,
drag on the
oh,
floor,
oh, I
and they
know.
won't work.
Yeah, well, we had carpenters, there's a good one, Aaron Betts go in, and he adjusted the doors, and I know they moved, but right now they will all close. So I think that won't be a problem. I'd also be willing to set up a system with a committee where we, really take turns, somebody goes in every Monday, make sure the heat's adjusted properly and all the doors are shut, if it's something like that. Because we really are committed to
do you
making
have
this
something
work.
to add to
So,
the
Annie,
discussion?
sir.
Yeah, I'm a member of the committee. With all due respect, we have actually done a lot of research and talked to a lot of people about what does need to be done. So we're sort of at that point. So just to, in terms of informing your motion, we sort of, there's not much further we can go in terms of gathering the information and the bids. And I mean, we put a lot of thought into this. The very first impetus was realizing that, no, it's not really, sort of environmentally responsible to try to heat the whole thing at this point. So as we thought about it, we got extremely excited about all the possibilities of what could happen downstairs, including rehearsals for the Rock River Players, which, as you know, is sort of now an established entity. It's definitely got its heels in the ground, and it's also been contributing from each production a pretty sizable amount toward the, toward what we're trying to do here. So I think, just to echo what Steve is saying, that if we could get some sort of go-ahead, we could keep this huge locus of energy that's developing in the committee and also among villagers around really trying to keep this open. It's great that we have places together in October, but we really need places together in February. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so for the next meeting, which will be first Monday in November, so would you make the motion that the hall will close on December 1st?
I think that, it would be November 6th.
Is your next meeting?
Yeah, since we meet, this is the 16th.
Right.
Right, the 6th
I
is
mean, I have no
our,
problem changing it, they wanna start now, I mean, on the windows and stuff like that, you know,
Right.
it needs to be fixing things anyways, you know, I mean, you've got some money, and there's some money available, so I mean, it's gotta be spent on it anyways, so.
So the price of $38.75 for the insulation, we got the insulation contractor, builders install products. He once gave us a bid for the entire building, he came down, and that is a firm price. Now, I understand, I believe that he had the lowest price when we were looking at doing the whole building. So would we need another bid for that? Or that would be
At 38,
75? Yeah. I don't think
I'm not sure what the floor limit is, but we can certainly explore that.
Mhm. So, I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, could I call him up and say, you know, when could you do that? When could you do the installation, or do I need to get another bid?
Well, technically,
Because I know if we call Foreman, I can call Foreman and get a bid, and it'll be much higher. And I don't think he'll do a better job, so.
technically, you could get 3 phone bids,
Mhm.
and then that would meet the requirement. Obviously, the goal here is not to prevent the work from being done. The goal is to make sure we get the best deal for the taxpayers.
Right, sure. And like the windows, Tom McLaughlin, who's in Brattleboro, I mean, he does a great job, he's highly recommended, and I don't know of anyone else around who does the kind of work that he does, which is restore windows and make them tight. And we need to get someone else on that bid as well.
Well, I think, excuse me, it's always important in addition to a low bid that you also have to consider the quality of the work and the reputation. A low bid isn't necessarily the best bid, just by itself.
but it shows that you are making an effort to get comparative bidding.
Just point of information, Tom is so unique in what he does. The friends of mine in Providence, Rhode Island, have brought him down there to do what he's doing. So as Steve said, it's not like they're a dime a dozen
Right,
what he's doing.
I'm
The-
sure.
And these things are all governed by state law about
Right.
purchasing.
I'm just,
I know Tom also, and he does wonderful work, but at the same time, if it's above that floor limit, then we have to get 3 bids.
Yeah, that's just,
So,
And just
Yeah.
as a rule, you know, just keep that in mind.
Right, that's why I'm asking. So I think for your next, if we keep the hall open till December, we'll monitor the heating, the doors, and then we'll get the bids that we can get, and come back to you on November 6th with a sort of final proposal, and then go ahead and do this work. In the meantime, like Mike suggested, if we could start on the windows and the shades, we'll start the process.
I think the maker was willing to reconsider his motion.
yes, I think so. Are you, the motion we've discussed and
Was to continue to explore.
was to continue to explore? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm saying if they wanna use some of the money now, they can. I'd make a motion if they wanna use some of the money to get started on some of the stuff.
That's what you said.
I'd make a motion that we do that. We'll go ahead and do it. Cause he's already been doing homework on it, looking into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's called people, so I mean, they know what they're
Yeah,
about.
the committee, a lot of people have contributed to this.
Plus it's some of their own money.
Right, yeah, the windows and the shades are our own money, so
Okay.
is
Yeah.
that governed by the same rules? Probably not. But, yeah, the windows were approximately 2,500 and.
Cause
shades
winter's
were
coming
about
quicker than
Yeah.
we were thinking.
Right.
No, I don't think he's gonna be here.
I hope not.
1,000. So
All right.
if you're okay with that, we could start on those projects.
Let the record show that the money is in the budget and has been budgeted, so, the money's there. They're not asking for new
Additional money or, right. It's just that we do need you to at least make an effort for comparative bidding.
Okay.
All right,
But
if
you
we,
need the second to modify his second, to follow the bid.
I was gonna say.
okay, are you
Just say the
modifying
second.
your second? I don't,
Does your second still hold?
I ain't got a clue what's going on there.
just say yes.
Just say yes. It's gonna work.
Okay,
Okay. Very good.
so we have a
Public
modified,
discussion?
motion and a modified second, and we've, discussed this completely. So I'm calling for a vote. All those in favor of, Can you read the bit back?
Motion to begin work on the Williamsville Hall weatherization proposal. I don't think a limit has been set, but the current proposal is for up to $10,875. Is that what we're
correct?
saying? Okay.
Yes, okay. We're, all those in favor?
Alright,
That's aye. All right,
Thank you.
motion passes.
And the
5-0.
second motion, to keep the hole open
We're
at this
good.
point, to at least
I
December
think-
1st?
Are we gonna be discussing that with
I'd let him
the,
do that.
you're
I'll
gonna
make that motion, as long as I keep an eye on the, like you said, with the bathroom doors.
So
and
it
whatever
starts
else.
cooling right off, what it's gonna cost to heat that building.
that's the unknown. Yes?
One thing, just because all 4 bathrooms are zoned together, there's still, you have 2 bathrooms downstairs, so there's no reason why you couldn't seal off the stairway as just an emergency exit. And you could seal off those upstairs bathrooms with tape. You could actually like make them airtight and just have them off limits for the winter, even though they're being heated. So you wouldn't have doors opening
Good
going
idea,
up the
yeah.
stairway, you wouldn't have the doors left open in the bathroom, and you'd have 2 perfectly good bathrooms downstairs.
Yeah.
So that might be one thing to take away your worries
What
about.
about a handicapped person?
No,
They
they're
go on
already
the
down.
elevator.
That's where the
Yeah,
elevator
they
is.
usually-
They can't get
Elevator.
upstairs anyway.
Yeah, that actually might be an
Yeah.
answer for your problem there,
Mhm.
for us, heating.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so,
Could that upstairs bathroom be drained? I don't know how the plumbing is set up in there.
Yeah, the problem is that, we asked about that, you know, the 4 bathrooms are on a zone, so to isolate the upper bathrooms from the heat would be expensive, complicated. Because they'd have to run a new zone for the upstairs bathroom.
So they're both run on the same thermostat?
Yes. Yeah, there's a thermostat in the ladies' room upstairs that controls the 4 bathrooms. So that's the problem.
No.
But, we're not, no one's taking a bath or a shower. So we're gonna keep the heat, down 50 to 55. And that's it.
So you're looking for a motion to keep the hall open until December 1st.
And if
Thanks,
we-
Dan.
we have a motion to keep the hall open till December 1st.
Okay.
A
all right.
second.
All right,
Mary
any
Ann?
further discussion?
Thank you. Okay.
All those in
Thanks a lot.
favor of keeping the hall open until December 1st, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
500.
All right.
Thank you very
Thanks for
much.
your support.
Thank
Okay,
you.
and we'll be back.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
okay, Williamsville Hall, we're getting this is a marathon meeting. Now we're moving on to the town office discussion. And we have one person still here.
I didn't come here for that.
Oh,
And it's the town office. Do we have any? Yeah, town office. No, I didn't come for that.
oh. Well, it's
I
on
don't know,
the,
I know it's on the agenda, but I came for the recycling.
oh. Well,
Were you gonna decide what you were gonna do about the,
we
you're
had,
looking into the
we had
the
here-
sign?
Yep.
how much do we have for painting the sign? And,
And I just responded to Shannon's email today, giving her the name of the person who had given us one
one bid?
straw bid on redoing the sign.
Okay, and we don't have any other actual bids. We haven't actually
I'm not
asked
sure where
anyone
Shannon
else.
is on that.
I don't know.
Well, I'm willing to see a bid, and we're willing to vote on it, and we're willing to probably get it done.
And the only other thing was the committee's working on a possible addition. Well, you said the last time you were gonna discuss that? And is that why it's on there? You were gonna discuss whether we should be looking into putting an addition onto this building?
Right.
Or were we just supposed to bring you some proposal?
It
I
was
think you're
my,
supposed to just bring
it
some
was my
proposals.
assumption.
Okay.
All the time, this 2.5 years that we've been working on this. It's always been my assumption. And I'm just speaking as an individual person, that it was always that we had the survey from the employees and that they didn't have any quietness to be able to do their work.
Well, I understand.
And so that we needed an extension.
I'm just looking for a yes or
We
no.
needed to extend, make this workplace
Okay.
larger for
The
meetings
committee is gonna be meeting on
and
the
for
23rd
the
of-
employees to work in a
24th?
24th.
workplace that they could
24th.
actually have quiet.
Sounds
And
good to
they
me.
could actually do business, and they could speak on
Yeah.
the phone and not hear each other's conversations.
I can hear it.
So, that's always been my assumption. So, is that still the assumption of this board, since we have some new members to this board?
Yeah, so you should let them bring it to us.
Yeah,
So it's always been,
Well, it is the assumption, but we also have to realize we're talking about a bond vote.
Right.
we are
So-
talking about a bond vote.
Right.
24th is the next,
Well, like I said, first thing you gotta have something to go by.
But if you
Yes.
want to, if you want to have that, you know,
I-
definitely a clear decision, then we can make a motion and vote on it. I think we might have already done that in a previous board, but we can do it on this board. So, all those are in favor of, asking the town committee to go forward with,
I think we did that last
we
week.
did that
We
last.
did
I
that.
know.
Really did.
We did that.
I think you did it
That's what
already.
she said.
I
She
don't know why
don't-
this is on,
Right.
I don't know why this is on the
I
agenda.
think we've fooled around enough with that.
I think
Yeah.
we
Let's
have
go on to
to.
the next one.
all we're looking for tonight would have been the information on the sign
On the
bid.
All
side.
right, so let's do that.
Okay,
Do we have,
you don't need anything.
we don't need anything.
Press on.
Press on, hallelujah. Okay.
And thank Doris for
Yes, thank
holding
you,
out for
Dory,
this
for
long.
hanging out with us again. We appreciate that. All right, correspondence?
You have job description, zoning and administrative assistant.
I don't think we should do anything without Shannon here.
Right.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And
So
that was
let's
our
just pass
intention.
over.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know why this is on there.
well, it was
Well,
on here
because
because,
she wanted to be here, but she got sick,
yeah.
so
That's right.
she's
So
not
this
here
falls
to
off
review
to,
this.
this falls off to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have one question.
Pardon?
Do you want me to lock the back door?
When
Do
tonight,
you, do you have keys
I do.
to lock the back door?
I have a key.
Okay, then I won't do it.
Okay, so
Sometimes,
so
no.
we are done, and it's on pay orders, and thank you very much for coming.
Where are the pay orders? Oh, they have, oh. I was looking around in the papers.
do-
We don't have any correspondence.
no,
No,
we're still open, we just